What's going on, guys? It's Anime1 back here with another video, and today we're gonna talking about what if Naruto was taken by Jiraiya for 3 years, and also known as the Legacy of the Yellow Flash. If you guys want to check out the fanfic, the link is in the description below. So let's begin. It has been a month since Naruto became a Genin under Sanjuro, and he would say that he had gotten very strong and improved the Horizon training. He could use the techniques 5 times a day, which was a great improvement since he could only use it 1 time before. Today, Sanjuro decided Naruto needed experience, so he decided that today he and Naruto would take their first mission. Naruto and Sensui were walking towards the Hokage's office as Naruto knocked on the door. "Come in," they heard the old Hokage's voice as they entered the office. "Hey, old man," both Sensui and Naruto said in unison as Hiruzen's sweat dropped. These two are similar in so many ways, Hiruzen thought. "Hello, Sensui and Naruto. What can I do for you?" Hiruzen said with a smile. "Well, old man, I think it's about time for Naruto to go on his first mission," Sensor said as the Hokage nodded. "Well, I guess it's gonna be a C rank," Hiruzen said as Sensor nodded. The Hokage was about to speak, but before he could, there was a poof of smoke as a dog appeared with a scroll as Hiruzen took the scroll and started reading it. Hiruzen's eyes widened when he read the scroll. "Sensor, Naruto, I have a mission for you. You see, I gave Kakashi's team a C rank mission, but it seems that the bridge builder lied about the mission rank, and the mission has been bumped up to an A rank mission," Hiruzen said, as Naruto's eyes widened. "Wait, Suki's in danger," Naruto said. "Yes, Naruto. That's why I give you the mission to go to Wave Country and assist Kakashi's team," Hiruzen said, as both Sensuru and Naruto nodded. "Naruto, meet me at the village gates in 10 minutes, Sensor said, as he vanished in a burst of flames, and Naruto vanished in bolt of lightning. 5 minutes later, Naruto and Sensuru were standing in front of the gates. "So, you ready?" Sensuru asked, as Naruto nodded. A few hours later with Team 7. Team 7 had just left the boat, and they used to cross into the wave. Everyone was walking at a civilian pace since they had Kazuna with them. Kazuna was put under a super amazing bridge builder. They were traveling with a diamond formation, Sasuke in front, Sakura and Suki to the sides, and Kakashi in the back. They were walking calmly, but they had to guard up since Kakashi had warned them about a possible Jonin encounter. Suddenly, Suki sensed something in the bush and quickly picked a kunai and threw into it. "Baka, stop playing with the kunai," Sakura yelled. "I'm not playing. I thought someone was there," Suki replied, and went to check the bush to only find a small white rabbit. "Suki, you idiot, you almost killed the poor white rabbit," Sakura said. That sent Kakashi and Suki thinking, um... white fur on spring. That's strange. Unless this was used for a substitution technique. "Get down!" Kakashi yelled, and everyone hit the deck, with Kakashi dragging Kazuna. Just as he yelled above, a huge board metal sword swung by their heads and got stuck in the tree. Moments later, on the top of the sword, a person appeared. He was tall and noticeably muscular, man with pale skin, shorty spiked black hair and brown eyes with small eyebrows. He was wearing bandages like mask or the bottom half of his face. Under his mask, he had relatively narrow jawline and jagged teeth. He wore his forehead protector sideways off his head. "What's this? A bunch of kids playing ninja," the shinobi said. "Zabuza Momochi, a A-rank missing ninja of the Mist Village, known as the Demon of the Mist Village," Kakashi said, preparing to face him in battle. "Oh, look, if it isn't the Kakashi of the Sharingan." The shinobi now identified as Zabuza said, "Just hand me the old man and you can go." "You know, I can't do that, Zabuza," Kakashi said, as he lifted up his headband, revealing a fully mature Sharingan in his left eye. "I get the Sharingan right in the beginning. I'm honored," Zabuza said, removing his sword and making a few hand seals, and said, "Hidden Mist Jutsu." The air started becoming thicker, and after a few seconds, the whole area was covered in a thick mist. Kakashi barely managed to see his own hands right in front of him. "Team, keep your senses sharp. Zabuza is a master of the silent killing technique," Kakashi said as the entire team shivered. Suddenly, Zabuza appeared in the middle of Sasuke, Suki, and Sakura. That was guarding Tazuna. He brought his sword and did a horizontal slash ready to kill them all. However, Kakashi was faster and impaled Zabuza, revealing him to be a water clone. Another Zabuza appeared behind Kakashi and cleaved him in half, only to Kakashi to burst into water. Zabuza, seeing this, suddenly felt a sharp metal at his throat. He turned around and saw Kakashi with a kunai ready to kill him. However, Kakashi wasn't expecting the Zabuza to be a clone. Seeing the Zabuza in front of him burst into water, he looked around only to be met by a fierce kick to his stomach, sending him flying and crashing into a nearby lake. Zabuza sunshined to Kakashi and went through hand signs and said, "Water prison jutsu." The water around Kakashi started to erupt and circle around him, trapping him. Zabuza stood there with a hand on the water spear, holding Kakashi in place. "Shit, I got caught," Kakashi thought. "Everyone, take 1000 and run. His water clone can't go too far from the original," Kakashi said. His team was in a bad place. He could only hope his backup arrived in time. "I won't back down and see you die," Sasuke said, and dashed forward, heading towards the enemy. Zabuza created a few water clones. Sasuke engaged them in a taijutsu battle quickly, but realized it was a bad idea. Sasuke couldn't keep up with Zabuza's speed and strength. The battle was over quickly when Zabuza gave him a strong kick that sent him crashing to the trees hard. Sasuke couldn't even get up and could barely breathe. "You should have run when you had the chance. You can't even scratch me," Zabuza said. The arrogance of that boy got him killed. Zabuza clone picked up his sword and went to finish the job. Sakura was shaking. She barely managed to stand up, and Tazuna was already on the floor, with his legs given out. Suki, seeing Sasuke in danger, ran towards Zabuza. Sasuke maybe is an idiot and arrogant bastard, but he was the only Uchiha left beside her, so she couldn't let him be killed. Suki, arriving near Zabuza, went for a punch, but Zabuza easily caught her wrist as Suki jumped up, aiming a kick right at Zabuza's face, but he blocked it with his sword. But his eyes widened when Suki breathed out a huge fire right at his face, dispelling the clone. Seeing this, Zabuza created more clones as they rushed towards Suki. Sasuke, seeing this, and Suki got into stance. "I can deal with the one clone, or even two, but this many, I can't handle them alone," she thought. Fire style, fiery spirits. Zabuza didn't have enough time to dodge as the stream of fire came from the woods, completely obliterating the clones. In front of Tazuna and Sakura arrived Naruto and Sandru. Naruto looked around, and it didn't look good. Kakashi was trapped inside the war prison, and Sasuke was on the ground, injured, and Suki was fine. "Naruto, you get Sasuke and Suki to safety. I will deal with Zabuza," Sandru said as he unseated his sword. Zabuza was now panicking. He had barely caught Kakashi off guard and caught him in a water prison, but Shinzu was a completely different case. This guy was stated to be even stronger than all of the Sanins. Zabuza gritted his teeth. He needed to escape, but there was absolutely no way that he could beat Sandru. Sandru and the rest of the team were caught off guard when three Senbons needle hit Zabuza's neck, releasing Kakashi from the water prison, as Zabuza dropped dead as a masked boy appeared. Thank you for keeping him busy. With your battle, I got a chance to catch him off guard, and I'm a hunter nin from Kiri. I was assigned to hunt him down, the masked nin said as Kakashi checked Zabuza's pulse and nodded to Senju, who also nodded in return. Glad that we were able to help, Kakashi said, covering his Sharingan as the hunter nin took Zabuza. Naruto looked at Senju. Aren't hunter nin supposed to destroy the body of the targets as sight? Naruto said in a confused tone as both Senju's and Kakashi's eyes widened. That was a fake hunter nin, they thought. Well, I guess that means Zabuza is not dead, Senju said like it was nothing. Hazuna, take us to your house. Zabuza will be back. We need to be prepared, Kakashi said. They left with Senju carrying Sasuke as he couldn't make any effort and still he was unconscious. Kazuna's house. A few miles down the road and Team 7, Naruto, and Senju arrived with Kazuna at his house. The house itself was near the ocean and seemed to be a simple wooden house. Kazuna led the shinobi inside. Tsunami, I'm home, Kazuna said happily that he finally got home. Father, Tsunami said, hugging him. I'm relieved that you're alright. Tsunami was a very beautiful woman. She had mid-black hair and black eyes. She wore a pink shirt with red sleeves and dark blue skirt. It's thanks to the shinobi, they saved me, Tazuna said. Tsunami approached his protective detail and bowed to them. Thank you for protecting my father, Shinobi-san. You're welcome to our house. We appreciate it. Is there anywhere we can lay two of my students who got injured in the fight? Kakashi said. Tsunami nodded and led the leader of the Jonin upstairs. Sakura, Kakashi said, getting her attention. Tomorrow we'll start training more seriously. We need to be prepared for when Zabuza returns. How come a little bit of training is going to help against the Jonin sensei? Sakura asked, wondering if her sensei was trying to kill her. Any training is good for you. If you have to face Zabuza, at least let's raise the odds, even if it is slightly, Kakashi said, to which Sakura finally nodded. Kakashi got up and approached Naruto, who was chatting with Suki. Naruto, Kakashi said, getting Naruto's attention. Huh? Naruto said, looking at Kakashi. Come, he said, placing a hand on his shoulder. We need to talk. Privately. Naruto nodded as they both sunshine to the outside of the house into the nearby woods. Stranger looked at Kakashi and Naruto as he smiled. At least he's trying to get to know Naruto, he thought. At the woods, Naruto and Kakashi. Kakashi and Naruto arrived in the woods via teleportation and Sunshin no Jutsu that Kakashi used. The Sunshin is really starting to get old. Why don't you use an elemental one? Naruto asked. Pretty much all of Konoha was used to the leaf Sunshin, and while it got a job done, it was lack of, word. Lame. Kakashi raised an eyebrow at which Naruto just asked. You could do that Sunshin, he asked, to which Naruto nodded and used the lightning Sunshin to teleport a few meters away. Kakashi was actually surprised to see a Genin use Sunshin no Jutsu, much less an elemental one. I can see you can, Kakashi started, and by the looks of it, you already have lightning element mastered. How? Naruto studied the man for a moment. Even though he helped him several times when he was young, people tend to change. After a few seconds, he found no deception. He decided to answer him. I've been trained since I was 5 years old, Naruto replied, and Kakashi was actually surprised to see someone without a clan training at such a young age. However, he quickly remembered his burden and needed to be strong to withstand all the hate of the villagers. I see. Maybe I can teach you a few lightning jutsus, since my affinity is the same as yours, Kakashi asked. That would be great. You know, my father had the lightning affinities as well, Naruto said as Kakashi's eyes widened. How do you know? Kakashi asked. Well, since I'm a carbon copy of him with just risk remorse, it's not hard to figure out, Naruto said as Kakashi's throat dropped. Talk about blonde geniuses, he thought. You remind me of the fourth, always seeing the good in people, Kakashi said, reminiscing about his Genin days, where he was always a fool until his best friend had died to save him. The fourth, Naruto asked, wondering how Kakashi knew him until it finally clicked. One of those days, Naruto was wandering through the Namikaze compound. He found a picture of his father Genin team. There was a silver-haired boy with a mask covering the bottom half of his face, a pretty girl with brown hair and two red marks on each cheeks, and the last a boy with black spiky hair, black eyes, and orange goggles. Naruto turned the picture, and it said Namikaze Minato, Kakashi Hatake, Inuzuka Rin, and Uchiha Obito. Ah! Naruto yelled, making Kakashi jump. I remember now, you were one of my father's students, along with Rin and Obito, right? He asked, as Kakashi nodded. They talked, and the hours went passing, without either one of them realizing it until the sky was dark. Well, Naruto, I think it's time we get back. It's getting dark, Kakashi said. Thank you for telling me about them, Kakashi, Naruto said, feeling like he bonded with Kakashi. After all, since Kakashi's father died, he grew close to his sensei. The Yondaime was the closest thing he had to a father. Okay, let's go, Naruto, Kakashi said, ruffling his hair and leaving the forest with him. Next day. The next day after the teams arrived, we find everyone quietly enjoying their breakfast, prepared by Tsunami. They were eating until Kakashi decided to break the ice and explain a few things. Everyone, Kakashi said, getting everyone's attention. After this, we are going to train, and as I explained to Sakura yesterday, Zabuza will be back and probably bring someone to help, so we need to be ready. We will alternate between protecting Tazuna at the bridge, protecting his family, and training, Kakashi said, explaining, and everyone nodded. That is why we will be training to make ourselves more prepared for when Zabuza shows himself next. With that said, let's go to train, Kakashi said, with a nice smile, in the forest near the house. Alright, now that we are here, I want you guys to climb these trees, Kakashi announced, getting curious look from all except Naruto. But sensei, you already know how to climb trees, Sakura said, as he looked at from the trees to her sensei. I know, that's why I wanted to climb them without using your hands. Sakura looked at him once again, with a clueless expression, as Suki and Sasuke had a look of realization. Their father had told them about the tree climbing exercise and not too long ago. Kakashi then demonstrated by casually walking up a tree to the top, then back down. He then threw a kunai to the groups of the Genin. Use this to mark your progress. Naruto, I assume you already know this exercise, Kakashi said, receiving a nod from the Genin. Do you know the water working as well? Kakashi said curiously. Naruto looked at his sensei before shaking his head. Yes, Naruto said. Well, I think I can teach you some lightning jutsus, Kakashi said with a nice smile. Kakashi then turned to his other three Genins. I'm taking Naruto over to teach him some jutsu. I'll be back in a bit to check on your progress. That said, Kakashi and Naruto walked off, heading for the nearby lake. Sasuke was the first one to pick up the kunai and run towards the tree, chakra flowing through his feet. The other two quickly followed as they began their attempts at the exercise. Sasuke was able to make it halfway up, and after a few attempts with Suki not too far behind, But much to the surprise of the Uchiha, Sakura made it up to the roof by herself in the first attempt. "Sasuke, are you impressed?" Sakura screeched, much to the annoyance of the Uchiha. Suki rolled her eyes while looking at the pink-haired Banshee. How did she become a ninja? She thought. Ignoring the screeching the teammates, the Uchihas turned back to their individual tree climbing exercise and continued. In the afternoon, Naruto and Kakashi and Senju were working on a jutsu for Naruto that he was working on. He was tired and was on his way towards his teammates. When he arrived at the training area, he met with a slight of hard-working Suki and Sasuke. He was making it about 2/4 of the tree up before falling back down, just to repeat the process again. And then there was his other teammate, who was busy climbing, trying to curb her hair and her hand, while watching Sasuke with a creepy look on her face. Naruto decided to ignore everything that was focused on his other two teammates. Suki and Sasuke halted their training upon seeing the blonde teammate arrival. They stared at him for a bit before going back to their training. After 10 minutes of making little to no progress, Suki decided to ask for some advice. After she jumped from the tree, like she had so many times, she walked over to the blonde and, drawing his attention of her brother, who stopped his exercise. As Suki reached where Naruto was sitting, she looked at him with a side expression plastered on her face. "Naruto, maybe you could, help me out on the tree climbing exercise," Suki said nervously, asked, not knowing if he could help or not. Though, to Suki's joy, Naruto gave her a small nod and stood up. "Sure, I can give you some tips," Naruto said with a small smile. Their attention was drawn to Sasuke as he walked up to the two. "Naruto, you have done this before. What's the trick?" Naruto looked at the Uchihas for a second before answering. "You need to relax more and let the chakra calmly flow through your feet." With that said, the Uchihas went back to their individual tree training before doing what their teammates said. Much to their satisfaction, they both flew past their previous mark, almost making it to the top. Naruto just looked at them with a small smile. That day, Tajina's house. The group sat down to eat dinner as a young boy came in and sought a disgusting look towards the group of ninjas before declaring how they were all gonna be dead to face Gato and they were all stupid, to which Naruto angrily refused that was the case. "So what? Things are bad, but you know what? I have had it much worse. You still have a mother who loves you and a grandfather, a house to keep you warm and food every night. You don't know what it's like to be hated in your own village for something that is out of your control. You don't know what it's like to be beaten and kicked out of the shops and to be forced to go to the garbage for food. You think your life is bad, fine, but don't just sit around and moan about it. Do something about it. Fight back. Don't be a coward. Senjuro Sensei, I'm leaving to clear my head," Naruto said as he stormed out of the front door. Suki got up and followed him. "Kashi Sensei, Naruto's life couldn't have been that bad, right? He has to be lying to get attention, right?" Sakura asked. "Oh, Sakura, everything he said was true. Naruto was kicked out of the orphanage at the age of 4 and lived on the streets for months before I found him and brought him to the Hokage. The Hokage gave Naruto an apartment, but he had to learn everything for himself and was constantly being beaten and kicked out of the stores. And that's only the watered down version," Kakashi said, getting a shocked reaction from the group. Tazina's house roof. Naruto stormed out of the house and made his way to the roof to gaze upon the dark sky. He needed to forget his previous argument with the spoiled kid. A few moments later, Naruto saw Suki approaching, but said nothing. You really shouldn't blame him, he's just naive. She tried to ease Naruto. It's just we've all suffered. Me being a Jinchuriki, you and Sasuke getting your whole clan killed by Itachi. Compared to us, he has had a good life. Naruto replied. He's just a kid. Not everyone has the strength to move on and forget the pain. Look at Sasuke. His pain drove him to become an obsessed with revenge. Suki said as Naruto looked at her. Well, what about you? Don't you think about revenge? Naruto asked Suki as she shook her head. After watching you for 3 years and how you are treated by the villagers, Suki said as Naruto looked at her as she continued, and yet you never wanted revenge. That taught me a lesson that we should learn how to forgive others, and I think that Itachi had a reason to kill the clan, but I'm not sure what yet, she said with a smile. As Naruto blushed, as Suki went back to the house and Naruto trained all night. Next day, Naruto opened his eyes to the sound of a person's voice and the feeling on hand on his shoulder. He looked up and slowly opened his eyes. His eyes met with the face of a young girl who he assumed was around the same age as him, and if not a little older. Naruto would be lying if he said he wasn't a little confused until he started remembering the events of last night. He remembered leaving the house after his little disagreement with the kid and heading towards the forest to work off some frustration. He must have fallen asleep after he finished. With that thought in mind, Naruto decided to focus his attention on the girl in front of him, who was looking at him with a hint of concern. If you stay out here, you'll catch cold, the girl said in a kind tone. Naruto leaned forward into a sitting position before responding. I don't catch cold, so I should be fine. But that begs the question, what are you doing here? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. Something was off about this girl. He couldn't just place his finger on it. The girl gave Naruto a small smile and tilted her head a bit. I was just collecting some herbs. I'm making some special medicine for my friend. Who you would like to help? Naruto studied the girl for a second before responding. I guess I could lend you a hand for a bit. I am Naruto. The girl smiled at him while standing up in crouched position. Nice to meet you. I'm Haku. The two began to pick herbs in silence. After a while, Haku broke the silence with a question. You have a forehead protector. Are you a shinobi? Naruto glanced over his shoulder at the girl, the way she talked and was acting towards him. That she already knew the answer. Yes, I'm a shinobi, Naruto said, returning the gaze to the ground. I assume that you were out here training then, Haku asked while turning her body in Naruto's direction. Correct, Naruto replied. Why, you seem plenty strong to me. Isn't your current strength enough? She questioned. Naruto narrowed his eyes for a bit. His theory was not confirmed. This girl obviously digging for subtle information. Now he knew. He thought he recognized her. It was the same hunter with Zabuza. He decides to play along, only for a bit, to see where it goes. No, I'm still young and have a lot to learn. I don't plan on stopping until my training, anytime soon. Do you have any precious people to you? The Haku asked. Yes, I do, Naruto said with a smile. Haku smiled in response. That's good. You'll be very strong. I believe one can only become truly strong when they have something precious to protect, Haku said. Thank you for your help. I hope that you find someone who you can consider precious. Aku said, giving Naruto a small smile. Before she turned around and started walking away. But as he was walking away, Naruto decides to respond. Oh, thanks. Tell Zabuza that I said hi. Naruto couldn't help but smirk, and a bit of a shock looked on her face. With that, Naruto decided to head back to the house, where his team was staying. At the house, Kakashi Sensei, he didn't come back last night. Shouldn't we at least make sure he's alright? Suki questioned with an annoyed look on her face as she continued to eat her breakfast with the rest of her team. While they all woke up in the morning, they found out that Naruto had not returned, like they thought he would have. Even though they didn't know where he was, Kakashi Sensei still wouldn't let them go out and look for him, instead saying he will come back later or he's trained ninja. There's nothing to worry about. Even though Suki knew that Naruto was strong and could take care of himself, she still couldn't help but worry. What if Naruto was attacked in his sleep or used too much chakra and couldn't move? After a while of arguing, she gave up and agreed to not look for Naruto. Though she decides that if Naruto wasn't back by noon, she would go out and look for him, whether Kakashi sensei thought so or not. Suki was brought out of her thoughts when she heard the front door open and turned to see Naruto strolling in. Suki was about to try and find out where Naruto had been, but Kakashi seemed to beat her to it. Naruto, I was wondering when you would show up, Kakashi said with his traditional mark eye smile. Then he noticed the dirt and grass stains that Naruto litter on his outfit. You look worse for your wear. I assume that you had the little training session last night. Naruto looked at Sensei and gave him a small nod. Alright, Kakashi, my student is more than capable of taking care of himself, Sensei said as Naruto nodded in agreement. Kakashi's eyes smiled in response before gesturing to the empty seat at the table with the food in front of it. You should eat your breakfast. I don't want any of us to be a little tired and to train again. Naruto nodded while taking a seat. Then he proceeded to eat his food almost at inhuman speeds, much to the amusement of some of people in the table. Suki glanced up from her food to look at her blonde friend. So, Naruto, Suki started grabbing the attention of the blonde. How was the training? Suki questioned, trying to start a conversation with the blonde. This gained attention of a few others who were curious about the blonde's response. Naruto waited for a second before he responded. It was fine. I just practiced a few of my jutsus, nothing worth mentioning. Suki nodded with a smile. Naruto decided to continue their conversation. How was your training going? He asked in genuine curiosity. Suki responded with a smile. Great! Sasuke and I started water walking. Suki then looked away a little nervous before talking again. I could use a little help if you have time, of course, he said, blurting out the last part while waving her hands. Naruto looks at Suki with a blank face for a few seconds before he gained a small smile on his face. I guess I can leave my shadow clones to train with Sensor Sensei. We can go after the breakfast. Naruto then turned to Sasuke. Are you coming as well? Sasuke took a second, then responded. I guess, though I doubt I'll need your advice. Naruto gave a small nod in response. Sakura decides to speak up. Alright, I'm coming too. Sakura smirked a bit while thinking this is the perfect opportunity to see Sasuke with his shirt, with and without his shirt. Her little daydream was curt, though, when Kakashi spoke. Actually, Sakura, you still need to work on your chakra reserves. Right now, you don't have enough chakra to do more advanced stuff. Kakashi said, getting a disappointed look from the girl. I want you to run up and down the trees to build up your chakra. Sakura looked like she might argue, but for a second, before she returned to her breakfast. The others soon followed. Time skip. After the breakfast, Team 7 were finished with their food. They left to begin their planned training, with Naruto, Sasuke, and Suki heading to the lake, Sakura continuing her tree walking, and Kakashi supervising while reading his orange book, of course. While 100 of Naruto's shadow clone went to train with Sensor on his new jutsu, with Naruto and the Uchihas. Once they arrived at the lake, they began their training with Naruto watching and giving tips on now and then. After a while of trying to be more proficient with water walking, she decides to ask Naruto for some advice. Suki turned towards her blonde best friend, who was currently switching his attention between her and her brother. Suki decides to call him out for help. Naruto! Upon hearing Suki's voice, Naruto turned his full attention to her. What do you need, Suki? He asked. Suki gave him a small nod. Well, your tips are definitely helping, but I still think having some trouble. Do you think you could, well, demonstrate a bit? Suki questioned. Naruto sighed. I'd rather not. I really don't want to get my shirt soaked. Suki wasn't planning on giving up though. Please, Naruto. I just want to learn how to water walk as soon as possible, Suki said with a puppy dog eyes. Naruto looked away from Suki, and he looked at the lake, then back at Suki. Even Naruto couldn't fight the power of the puppy dog eyes. Naruto sighed for a second before nodding. Fine. Suki was happy in response. Naruto removing his shirt, revealing his toned and strong body to Suki in all its glory. Suki couldn't help but analyze every part of Naruto's body while permanently imprinting it into her memory. Sasuke couldn't help but laugh at her best friend, opening goggling their Naruto with a goofy smile on her face. Once Naruto reached her and began to explain some things like tips and tricks while demonstrating them to her. Those Suki thoughts were elsewhere as he was able to study his body up close. Naruto seemed to notice because he raised an eyebrow while waving at Suki. Suki! Suki! The sound of her name seemed to snap her out of her trace, back to reality. Huh? What? Suki said, while focusing again. Are you paying attention? Naruto said, with a raised eyebrow and a confused look. Suki nodded quickly. Of course. Though maybe you can go over it all one more time, Suki said, rubbing the back of her head sheepishly. Naruto studied her for a bit before he decided to go over the stuff again. After a bit, Sasuke decides to join them after he started to see Suki's quickly improvement. Their training went on for a while, with them making major improvements. After a few hours of training, Suki and Sasuke had water walking down and were drained of their energy. They headed back to the shore and gathered their things. Naruto put back his sword on, much to Suki's disappointment, and dispelled all of his clone and got the information from the clone as he smirked. After they all gathered their stuff, they all decided that they were done for the day and headed back to the house, feeling tired but accomplished. They arrived at the house to find a sleeping Sakura and a reading Kakashi. Kakashi looked up from his book and I smiled at all of them. You guys look beat. So, did you guys improve on water walking? Suki smiled while Sasuke smirked. You bet. After a few tips from Naruto, we had it down flat, Suki said, beaming. Sasuke decided to throw his thoughts as well. Of course, it's only to be expected. Though I guess Naruto's tips helped a bit, Sasuke said, gaining a small smirk from Naruto. Kakashi returned his eyes to his book. That's good to hear. Now you guys should get some rest. We're going to be heading out to the bridge in 2 days, so you all need to be well rested. With that said, Naruto, Suki, and Sasuke headed towards their respective sleeping areas to get some much needed rest. I hope you guys like this chapter of the legacy of the Yellow Flash, and this is covering the chapter 6 of the story. So if you guys liked it, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Until then, see you guys in the next video. Peace.